This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, welcome to another episode of Mountaineer Moment, episode number 27 here of this Mountaineer football and basketball podcast, and not a pretty one. Recording fresh off the Mountaineer blowout loss to Kansas. Mountaineers got absolutely pummeled. Offense, defense, special team got wrecked. And so not a particularly fun podcast to record in the brief history of this show. But if you are here, please consider to subscribe, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, so you can be in the know when we have new content coming during football season, at least so far. On the Young Podcast, Young Season, we have 3, 4, 5 episodes every week, pregame coverage, getting you ready for kickoff, and then 1 or 2 episodes postgame reaction, and that's what this episode is right here, is just a postgame reaction to the Mountaineers blowout loss, 41-10 in Lawrence, Kansas for the Big 12 opener. Certainly not what we were expecting. I mean, Vegas obviously with the lines were closer than we were thinking, with Kansas being almost about a 2-touchdown favorite, winning this one by a little bit more than that too, with a 31-point loss for the Mountaineers. But we'll talk about everything here, and it won't be the longest episode ever, but we'll talk about everything, offense, defense, special teams, what went wrong, and what this means for the this is only game 1 of the Big 12 schedule. Mountaineers obviously come home next weekend to face a Utah team that just lost, and they weren't expecting to lose in the manner that they did against Texas Tech at home. And so you bet they're going to be coming to Morgantown hungry after their 34-10 loss themselves. Utah came into today, Saturday, as the 16th ranked team in the country. That'll obviously change after their 31-10 loss, but that's who Mountaineers got coming up next to Morgantown, so you can bet they're going to be hungry. But first, before we get to that one, let's talk about just how ugly this was, how bad it was, and again, what it means moving forward for the Mountaineers. So things just kind of went from bad to worse as this game went on. One of the storylines that we had to discuss, in the lead up to kickoff on this very podcast was, all right, Kansas has gotten off to really great starts offensively through their first 3 games, including against Missouri, jumping out to a 21-6 lead in the first quarter. And the Mountaineer defense has been really, really good all season long, but first quarter they'd given up just 3 points all season. So that was kind of a story to watch, who's going to get off to a better start. Mountaineers started with the ball, couldn't do anything, which is going to be pretty much what you're going to hear throughout the remainder of this, kind of game summary, if you will. But Kansas's first drive, they did score a touchdown. Then Mountaineers forced some punts. I mean, there were several punts back and forth after Kansas touchdown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 straight punts between Kansas and Mountaineers. Just neither offense able to do anything through the remainder of that first quarter. So Kansas took just the 7-0 lead. Out of the first quarter, but you were obviously concerned because of the Mountaineers' inability to do anything offensively. I mean, we're talking, negative 2-yard drive, negative 3-yard drive, 6-yard drive, 2-yard drive, all 3 and outs, just really ugly football. On top of that, one of the storylines, obviously Ty Edwards, who had his monster breakout performance in the backyard brawl, 141 yards on 25 carries and 3 touchdowns, was unable to go in this one due to injury. It was kind of interesting because I think I saw him listed as probable, 3-4 days ago, and then next thing you know, it's like an hour or 2 out from kickoff, and it's Ty Edwards is a game time decision, and it's like, okay, what in the world? Maybe Rich is playing a game, who knows what he's doing. But no, Ty Edwards did not go in this one. Obviously traveled, but just he didn't go, and that hurt a lot. Not saying that, it's going to make a huge difference in this game, but like you lose a guy, you lose Jaheim White in the Ohio game, who's your star running back. Ty Edwards comes in the next game and just goes off, and then now he's out, and then your feature back for whatever reason. And again, Mountaineer, people that cover the team, people that write on the team, and podcasts on this Mountaineer football team, myself included, can't really understand why Clay Ash seems to be the Mountaineers' feature back. Just cannot figure it out. 7 carries for 12 yards, which is pretty on par for what he's done. He doesn't have burst. He's not quick enough. Sincere Bowers got 5 carries. Dior Hubbard got his first carries of the season. 3 carries for 16 yards for him. So Mountaineers, aside from Jalen Henderson and Khalil Wilkins, who got in, at the quarterback position to just run the football, really is what they did. I mean, Henderson only 4 passes total, and he had 7 carries for 79 yards and a touchdown. Khalil Wilkins, 5 for 36. Aside from the QBs doing what they did, that's over 100 yards right there on 12 carries, and the Mountaineers had 41 carries, so you do the math, they're like 29 carries for about, less than 80 yards on the day, and it's just not going to cut it. So, but total, including those guys' carries and garbage time and what have you, 41 carries, 182 yards, good for 4.4 average, but not really telling the whole story there of these Mountaineer, the Mountaineer struggles offensively. Nico Marco, 15 for 27, 126, and a pick. Not a great game for him. But, even like we've said throughout this season, it doesn't really fully fall on him now, but because of his struggles, because of this team's offensive struggles, there's questions beginning to be raised once again as to who will be the quarterback, right? And it's like, after week 1, it's like, all right, this is Nico's job. And then after week 2, it's like, well, should it be? And then after week 3 against Pitt, and you see what Nico does, and the comeback, it's like, man, this is Nico. It's him. And now there's people calling for Jalen again because, Nico not a better passer than Jalen Henderson. We fully understand that, but then there's people bringing up Rich Rod's offensive system, and now, with the running back issues and the offensive line woes, and you need a quarterback that can run and run well and run effectively, and Jalen Henderson obviously capable of doing that. So should you call on him? I don't know. I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent here, but either way, just not an ideal situation. Mountaineer defense, did their best kind of once again to keep the Mountaineers in it. The backbreaker obviously was when you go into the half, down big, and then Kansas returns the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Then you get a 3-and-out. Then Kansas, I think, scores again after a long drive, and then you throw a pick. It was just, kind of one of those cliche things. What could go wrong did go wrong, especially, late second quarter, early third quarter, right? The last few drives, right? So Kansas scored a touchdown. West Virginia, gets a little bit of a drive together, and then turnover on downs, and then Kansas gets a field goal heading into half, and then they return the kickoff. Then West Virginia goes backwards on their drive. Then, they punt. Kansas gets a 12-play, 7-minute drive for a touchdown. Mountaineers throw a pick. It was just, after that, this game is over. And then you start experimenting with other guys coming in. And, obviously Jalen Henderson checked in, had a 95-yard touchdown drive in the fourth quarter when Mountaineers were already down 34-3. But just, again, what could go wrong did go wrong. Defense obviously had their fair share of issues and allowing big plays and that kind of thing. So if we focus on the defensive side of things for just a minute, Kansas ran it well. Something that was a key point of discussion on Mountaineer Moment especially was the Mountaineer run defense against the Kansas rush offense. Kansas was unable to run the ball at all in their loss to Missouri. Mountaineers, you thought maybe had a chance to put a performance similar to that as far as, because they've had success against the run. But they were no Missouri tonight. Kansas had their way. 242 yards. LaShawn Williams, 62-yarder, 19 carries, 129 yards. Jalen Daniels, who you expected, and I said it. If you want to go check and watch the tape, I said I think Jalen Daniels is going to get a little bit more involved in the running game. He had 69 yards. I think he had about 90 coming into the game. And through the air, I mean, he just completed just 50% of his passes, which was significantly lower than what he had coming in. I think about 72, 73%. 138 yards. He did, have 3 touchdowns through the air, including that first one on their first drive, wide open play on fourth down. Good for 30, 40 yards or something like that. But they put up 41 points, right? 41 points, and obviously punt returns, kick returns were an issue. In this one as well, getting, good field position for them. And then if you flip it to the offensive side of things, no one on the Mountaineers had more than 2 catches or 26 yards, or 3 catches, Grayson Barnes had. But the leading receiver was Sincere Bowers with 26 yards. Cam Vaughn, just 2 catches, 11 yards. He's obviously, defenses are factoring in on him without Jaden Bray with his injury done for the season. Teams are camping out on Cam Vaughn and trying to take him away. And obviously Kansas able to do that, during the parts of this while it was still a game, because, again, after it got way out of hand, Mountaineer quarterbacks came in and were able to run it effectively and all that sort of stuff. But just a struggle. And, there was obviously talk of, will it be a letdown after such an emotional win in overtime? Kansas is coming off a bye. Now you're hitting the road. Well, you could say some of that was the case, but I don't think the Mountaineers weren't focused or weren't coming out to play hard. Again, I think everybody on this team, because there's so many new faces and you're growing accustomed to seeing them, they're all still playing to earn their role, earn their minutes like you would on a basketball team, right? They're earning their snaps, because Rich Rod ain't scared to take you out, right? If you're not hustling, you're not playing hard. So I don't think it was that. I think you just got, Rich Rod said it post game, out coached, outplayed. Got to be better. And as much as we don't want to, just hear that and be like, oh, of course, but just outclassed by Kansas. And we're not talking about a game at Fog Island Fieldhouse on the basketball court. We're talking about Kansas football. And a loss in this fashion, after such an emotional win, and now it's, you're back in the dumps again. There's injury concerns. Offensive line, obviously, a concern. Defensively, now you're seeing a team who, played their best game. Mountaineer defense played their worst game, and an offense that showcased the best game that we've seen against the Mountaineer defense in this Kansas team. And a lot of ways, it's back to the drawing board. There's some things to figure out, lots and lots and lots of film to watch, which probably won't be a very pleasant experience for coaches and players alike. But you just got outworked, outplayed, outmanned, and just straight up destroyed in Lawrence by a football team that's clearly better. And I don't remember where I heard it or read it. But the Pitt game, someone said the Pitt game proved that we don't suck. And this game against Kansas was an opportunity to see, okay, maybe we don't suck, but are we good, or where are we? So if tonight's 41-10 loss is any indication, this is a team that's still lacking identity, still lacking just a lot. After the Ohio game, people were saying we're not going to win again. They're going to start saying that again. Even though, the very next week after Ohio, we took care of Pitt in overtime. And, what's the thing now? What are people going to say now? Because you're going to be a home underdog against Utah. I can guarantee that. But obviously this was telling of something that's a work in progress. Because if the not the opposite of this happening. I don't think anybody expected that Mountaineers were going to come in and beat Kansas by 2-3 touchdowns. No one expected that, but you expected a closer game than this. And again, I wasn't going to be surprised if we won or kept it close. Maybe surprised. I don't know. Given the performance we just watched, maybe surprised would have been the appropriate word. But I'm more surprised by a 41-10 loss than I would have been by a narrow victory for the Mountaineers. Right? This is not pretty, and it's telling again of a team that's got a lot of work to do, a lot of things to figure out, personnel wise, injury wise, quarterback position, just a lot to figure out. And you got to figure it out quick, because now you're in the thick of the Big 12. You start 0-1. Again, not that there's like these great high expectations of doing of competing for a Big 12 championship or anything like that. But man, if you want to save some face and you want to win some games, because again, there's going to be people saying, "Oh, this team might not win again." Well, it's back to the drawing board. It's back to figuring things out. They came into this game against Kansas with a mantra of, having something to prove. Well, you didn't prove anything. So we'll see what the Mountaineers do. We might have another episode breaking this down a little bit further. Again, this is just the immediate reaction night after the game. We might have another episode focused on that before we get into Utah, and 4 or 5 episodes dealing with the Utes, and they're coming to town against against the Mountaineers in Morgantown. So we'll definitely have you covered there. But look out for another episode breaking down Kansas, and we will see you next time on Mountaineer Moment.